when I left Cube, and I really hadn't thought about it, I went to Harlan, Kleinman. Howie Blumenthal and I went together, actually. I hadn't thought about that in a while. Just ran into Harlan after all these years. Saw him about 6 months ago. But I was there and did the Mike Douglas show from there, which was a dream for me because I was, kind of like was bananas in a way, in a way. And then when I was doing the Mike Douglas show, and I watched.
When you say doing the Mike Douglas?
I was one of the producers of the Mike Douglas show. I did all the comedy on the show. I was responsible for. It was a dream. Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Robert Klein. I'm on and on and on. Shecky Green. All the great guys. So I left there, and went on to have my own company, which was called Tonight Entertainment, and we booked people for live appearances, colleges, even malls at times. Soupy Sales became a dear friend of mine from doing that, and with Harlan, by the way, we did two pretty important shows. We did a show called The Me Nobody Knows, which was an off-Broadway show, and then we did a show called The Passion of Dracula, and we won an Ace Award for that. So I did that, but I always wanted to do my own talk show. That was always it for me. So I ended up with a company called Multimedia, and they brought me in to produce and change the show that was on the air for 18 years. It was kind of a regional version of the Mike Douglas show called the Bob Braun Show, which I remember we all used to kind of watch when we were at Cube, and frankly, I think we used to laugh at it. I think we did. So now there I was doing it. And when I got this job, it was the first thing I thought of. We used to walk by the Cube and laugh at this. Now I'm doing it, so that means someone's laughing at me, But that did go through my mind. So I did that, and while I was doing it, it occurred to me that this company had the Bob Braun Show, which was regionally syndicated, and Donahue, who was obviously huge, and came to us at Cube. And I went into the CEO one day, Walter Bartlett was his name, and said, "What happens if Phil gets hit by a bus?" And it was almost like they never thought of that. It was amazing to me. Phil was doing so well, and nobody was around. Oprah wasn't around. Nobody was around then. They never thought of it. I said, well, if I can find somebody, can I start my own show? And he said, yeah. I think he said, yeah, just to get me out of the office, probably. Anyway, I decided I wanted it to be a woman. And nobody had a woman doing that kind of a show. There was Dinah Shore and those kind of people, who spent most of the time in the kitchen, but not doing a controversial talk show. And I found this lady named Sally Jesse Raphael, who I originally thought was three people. I didn't even know who she was, I heard three names. And she was what I was looking for. Now, they came to Multimedia, said to me, why would you want a woman? How could a woman do this, And here was the example I gave then. It's so silly now, but this is the example I gave then. I said, when Phil does a show on PMS, it takes on, a certain perspective. If a woman does it, it's got to be different. It has to have a different feeling. Apparently that made a little sense to him. And I brought Sally in because Bob Braun was going on vacation. So I figured if I bring her in for a week, I can have her there for a week, try different things, put a reel together, and in fact have a pilot for nothing, So I did, and I put the reel together. I went back to Walter Bartlett. He looked at it, and then he went he got up from his desk, closed the door, and said, I want to tell you a story. He said, Phil Donahue and Marlo Thomas, were away about 3 years ago in Puerto Rico, and they heard a lady on the radio, and they came back to me, meaning Walter, saying, I don't know her name, but we should look into this lady. Well, it was Sally, by coincidence. He apparently sent a memo out. You don't send memos anymore, do you? You send emails now. But he sent a memo out then, and apparently nobody did anything about it. It just got lost. And I strolled in 3 or 4 years later with Sally, and we started the show October 17th, 1983 in St. Louis. And about 18, 19 years later, we did the show for 18 or 19 years. We started in St. Louis, then moved it to New Haven, built it, almost like a Broadway show. And then from New Haven, went to New York, where we won 2 Emmy Awards. It was what I always wanted to do. Oprah came on when we started before Oprah. She came on 6, 7, 8 months in, and then nobody knew our names for about 8 or 9 months or whatever it was.
weren't you involved with Jerry Springer?
Yes.
Tell me about how you got involved with Jerry.
Okay. When I was in Cincinnati doing Braun, Jerry came in. He used to be the mayor. Then he came in to do be the newscaster. And I got chummy with him. And he would come on the Braun show to promote the news. And he was funny as hell. And I remember thinking, I got to do something with him. Well, life takes its turns, and I did something with Sally. But I did not want to be a one-trick pony. It was real important to me to see if if people would say you get lucky if you can do it once. Maybe you have some idea of what you're doing if you can do it twice. So I went to the company, or actually the company had come to me, and they were going to give me more money. And I said, I don't want the money. I want to do another show. Who do you want to do another show with? This is to Walter again. I said, Jerry Springer. He said, Jerry Springer? It made no sense to him. And Jerry was the lead anchor at the news in Channel 5 in Cincinnati, which was our station. So they didn't want to remove him from the news. Well, I talked him into it, and we did. And we started the Springer Show as a fairly serious show, kind of a bit of a replacement for Phil. And it wasn't going anywhere. Just nothing. We couldn't catch fire. And, again, a lot of people tell you a lot of stories, but I started it, and this is what happened. One day there was a fight, essentially. And boom, somebody knocked the other guy over. And I think we were all smart enough to know, wait a minute. We looked at the overnight ratings and think, wow. And that kind of started the madness. And frankly, I'm usually embarrassed when I walk in to meetings now and someone says, oh, you're the guy with Jerry Springer. And they're expecting some lech to walk in. I always say, by the way, which will make sense to you and nobody else, I'm the guy that's got Howdy Doody in his living room. I'm not the guy you think I am, I still am embarrassed by it. And they always say, well, you have nothing to be embarrassed by. Is there a connection? Let's go back to QUBE for a second. Can we do that? Because I was brought in to do Celebration. That was originally why, I don't know if you remember that, but that's where I was brought in by Mike Fields. As you remember, Celebration was going to be the big show, and there was millions of dollars being spent, and the mall studio was built, and my friend and my mentor, God bless him, Mike Fields, was there, and it just didn't play out the way we all thought it would play out. And if I remember correctly, I think what happened, I'll get to the talk show thing, I think everybody finally realized, we were spending all this money and nobody was bothering us. And then I think someone had, thought, wait a minute, we've got this studio, we're doing one show. If we do 2 shows in there, we can advertise the cost of the studio. Someone got smart. That was when all of a sudden we couldn't take the pencils as much as we used to be able to take them. But anyway, so I was asked to come, I'm trying to think. I remember Ed Anderson asking me this. I don't know if my memory is right, about doing another show for teenagers after school at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And he said why don't you do like an American Bandstand kind of show? And now I was an associate producer on Celebration. I had never been a producer before. And so I said, well, I don't want to do that. And he was shocked, and he's, why? I said, well, there is American Bandstand. Why would we want American? There is. Dick Clark is doing that. And he thought about it, and said, oh, okay. And I went back to Celebration. They did a pilot for another show. I saw the pilot. I remember seeing the pilot. And that apparently, for whatever reason, didn't work out. And you guys brought me back in and said, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know, but if you can book me into like schools or auditoriums, I don't know if you remember this, to auditoriums, and just give me some help to write some stuff down, let's find out what they want to see. Let's do our own research, because I don't know. I'm not a teenager. So you guys did, smartly, by the way. And I went to some junior high schools and high schools and asked them what they wanted to see. And what we came up with was kind of a combination of a Phil Donahue kind of show, a little bit of a Mike Douglas kind of a show, and a little bit of American Bandstand. And we called it Columbus Goes Bananas. And that to me was, well, first of all, it was my own show. It was the first time I ever had my own show. It was wonderful, and I'm sure other people will sit here, I think, and say the same thing. But it was wonderful. And it allowed me to, spread my wings a little bit and see if I actually did have some clue of what in the heck I was doing. And did all those years in high school watching Johnny Carson pay off.